Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Norton, the founder of People Plus Purpose, and this is the Truth Behind Dentistry podcast. And today I'm excited to have Dr. Jack Bayramyan as my guest. While in dental school, Jack visited Mexico on a mission trip, which became the driving force of his career to focus on children's dentistry and alleviate their pain and self-consciousness. He eventually brought smiles to nearly 1 million children throughout the US. In 2004, he opened his practice, Kids Dental Place, which grew to 8 practices throughout California and Arizona. In 2019, he merged KDP with the DSO Hero Practice Services. Jack is now the author of the book Extraction and the co-founder of Optimized Practice Alliance, training and empowering other clinicians to transform their business leaders, helping them systematize, scale, and increase the valuation of their practices. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Jack.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Dr. Norton.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So thank you. Appreciate the time. So that kind of gave an aerial snapshot, right, of this journey. But I would love for you to kind of fill us in maybe on any other, what feels like pertinent details that kind of helped you get to the point where you are now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that snapshot. It's always almost surreal to listen through and get a sense of your own entrepreneurial journey in a 1 minute tidbit. But obviously, a lot goes into building that journey. I always embrace the fact that I've been very blessed in my life to have been put in positions and opportunities and struggles to really find a sense of meaning and purpose that gives me joy and fulfillment beyond just being financially successful. I think, having that entrepreneurial journey and continue to be on that entrepreneurial journey, there've been a lot of moments and a lot of reflection. When I sat down to write the book Extraction, a lot of that was for the first time in my life, reflecting backwards to understand the moments of strength, the moments that really defined and is relevant to everybody else that I've encountered, and how can we overcome and continue to strive and fulfill our desires, because entrepreneurship at essence is about growth and expansion and freedom and creating value. And if you're fully committed to be an entrepreneur, it's a journey and it really doesn't have a destination. It's a lifelong journey that is full of rewards, but it also, I think, it's one of the most incredible journeys of personal growth and development into being a great human being, because it allows you to go through most of mental and emotional and truly physical strains and moments of extreme high and moments and extreme struggles and pain to overcome. And I think without that resistance and without those obstacles, there is no growth. And I think it's been a wonderful way for me to really embrace life at everything. And to go back, when I graduated dental school, I was married, I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I really had a singular purpose, which was, how am I going to support my family? I was an immigrant. We came from Soviet Armenia back then. So up until graduation date, I lived under the poverty line with my family, lived off of student loans. So I really just was trying to find a way to support my family. And it was not an easy time to be an associate. Back 2003, there weren't no corporate DSO opportunities. So it was just transition from one senior dentist to a younger dentist in a transitional plan. So it was scarce. And I happened to find an opportunity working at a community dental clinic, working with children. And it was intensely intimidating. And I had done a lot of work on mission trips when I was at USC Dental School, and it was great. But we would see one patient, 2 patients a day, and it was challenging, but it was limited. And I was really thrown into 30, 40 patients in one day as a working interview, and things were just going over my head, struggling, breathing, almost screaming at me to quit. What am I doing? There's no way I could, overcome this. I'm going to hurt somebody. I'm going to hurt a child. I'm not competent.
Right.
So all of those feelings. But, we're like, well, this is the only job that I have.
Right.
I have to support my family, and I'm going to push through. And, one day, 1 week, a month, 2 months into it, there's a different sense of meaning and purpose that kind of rose within me working with the children. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that I could truly relate as an immigrant myself, growing up under poverty. I had my teeth restored under a Medicaid clinic when I was a kid. My parents were, unaware of oral health, oral hygiene. So just trying to bring all that sense of relation to my patients, the parents, educate them, treat them with love and compassion, and most importantly, understanding, and see the rewards of the connections that got to be built between me and my patients and the families, and them sending their family members to come and only see Dr. Jack. I think that's something that just you have to experience and feel, and it's a reward by its own. About 6 months into rotating through different practices within that group, one of the practices was available. So I'm like, I'm gonna buy this because I have a vision of how I could really transform and bring my sense into the world of practicing from my heart. And I had a vision. I knew what I could do differently. I knew I could, relate and connect with the patients differently. And I was a bit naive because no bank would even entertain giving me a loan without 2 years of a dental license.
Right, right.
But very persistent. I after 4 or 5 declines, I eventually convinced the underwriter at Wells Fargo to give me a loan, and convinced the seller to say, "Okay, you got this." I bought the practice, and 3 months into the practice, I was full of excitement, joy. Trying to create. But 3 months into the practice, my practice manager left, and I felt completely abandoned.
Mm.
I knew how to treat patients. I knew how to give love and attention. The practice was growing. We're marketing. We're getting referrals, but the revenue was just like, I could barely come under the cloud. Paid my student loans, paid a loan that I had borrowed, and there was days and weeks that I thought I was just not going to make it. Like this was the end of this journey. And what I decided to do is just fully commit to understanding what makes a business run and a normal practice. So practice by day, at night. There were no YouTube videos or anything. Literally, I would sit down, and there was a manual distake on Dentrix operating system. And I would just comb through the pages, click through the buttons, and try to tie the different pieces of practice management together. And about 2 to 3 months of just trying and working and training my staff, we finally worked the system. I saw a complete picture of all the parts and pieces fit together, from accounts receivable, from scheduling, and I could tie it to reports where I could make sense. I could get the data, and I knew exactly where. It's like diagnosing a patient, right? You have the data, you could see it, you could treatment plan it, and then you follow through the treatment plan, you see the results. And that was the turning point. Unfortunately, I caught about $80,000 of accounts receivable that we just could not receive. And it was a very painful lesson because the claims were expired with Medicaid. It was just a 6-month expiration claim. It was a painful lesson, but an incredible teacher. And that literally became the foundation of, understanding how to build a practice, how to grow a practice, putting the foundational pieces together, business operating systems, continuously simplifying, building teams around you that believe in you and your vision and are aligned with your culture and the way you want to treat your patients. And ultimately, self-development. How do I become the best leader that I can be? Because not only my patients, but my team deserves me to be the best at my game. So investing in learning, growing, reading outside of dental school. Dental school doesn't teach you any of this. Yeah. And that was the beginning of opening a second location, and then ultimately led to 8 locations in 2 different states. 2019, we had a very successful merger with Hero Practice Services. It was an incredible moment of pure joy and accomplishment. Followed by, oh my God, now we have to deal with COVID, and it's chaos, and it's like where entrepreneurs thrive, right? It's just like things going crazy all the time. So I stepped in about a year, worked on the leadership, clinical leadership board, kind of brought the pieces back together, brought our teams back together, brought our doctors back together. And I've always had this passion for coaching and teaching other doctors through my journey and the lessons. With my friend and co-founder, we started Optimize Practice Alliance, and I'm deeply passionate about the work that we're doing right now. So it's literally the steps and the processes of my journey highlighted, and we try to bring that to life in the practice, because if I were to just really highlight the steps for me, the entrepreneurial journey, it's a life cycle, and it really starts with that clarity of vision and sheer commitment. And that's a commitment of time and money and energy. And when you're in it, you're trying to build the capabilities that could support the growth, but it requires a lot of courage because as you're building the capabilities, you're investing, nothing's moving, and you feel like, oh, there's a lot of uncertainty, that you're in this cloud that you don't see the light. So that encouragement piece is very important, and having a community and people who have gone a little bit ahead of you that could empower you and encourage you is critical for us to step and see the results of the growth. And with growth, we get the confidence, and with confidence, we could, recommit to the next phase of clarity of vision and start the whole cycle all over again. That's essentially what we do.
Congratulations on all of that accomplishment. I mean, it's exciting to hear. I mean, your energy and enthusiasm are clearly palpable for one thing. So, I mean, the genuineness of your passion is obvious. And just to hear the journey that really is that entrepreneurial journey from scratch, right? I mean, you didn't really start with a leg up necessarily, so that all you really have to offer, what you have to offer now, is really based on having walked all of that. So, and entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. Ownership is not for the faint of heart. But then again, life isn't really for the faint of heart anyway, right?
Very true.
So
Very
the resilience that's necessary to thrive at any level of life, I think it's just maybe magnified in some ways in that ownership entrepreneurial process. But how exciting. And also just, I mean, I also want to just say that I love your heart in all of this, as to that, in that time in Mexico and seeing needs, and the awareness of those needs, that connected with you has driven that passion, right? So that it's not like, it feels to me anyway, like it wasn't just like, here's the vision of success I'm trying to get to, but the success flowed, which I think is important for more people to understand, that to keep tuning into what is that inspired driver inside of us. And then the other is the result, right? I mean, all that you've gotten to, what step by step came from you keeping your eyes on what really came to matter to you. Would you say that's correct?
absolutely. I mean, I talk about clarity of vision. I had no clear vision when I started. I honestly didn't even have passion. It was passion that found me, working with children, understanding the connection, and it's a visceral experience. It's not something that can be told to somebody else. You have to experience the meaning and fulfillment of serving another human being and being rewarded by gratitude and appreciation and referral. That means they recommend you and they trust you. That in itself builds passion. And when you have passion, then you want to scale that at the highest level of value that you could create. And success, financial success, is only a byproduct of that. I don't think there's another path to it, because you can be financially successful but miserable and don't have, your heart is not into it, you're grinding through it. I don't define that as success at all.
No. And that passionate enthusiasm really is infectious, right? So if you do want to scale, if you do want to have a bigger impact, then effervescing that passionate vision, I mean, it draws people in, right? Because it's still relatively rare. I mean, I don't know how many people in my life, and I think I've been around longer than you, have really embodied that level of inspired engagement, right? It's not a common phenomenon, so people are attracted to that, I think. So you wrote this book, Extraction. Let's segue slightly, but not much. None of this is going to be a big segue, but you wrote the book Extraction. So maybe talk to us a little bit about the extraction process. What does that mean exactly, and how do maybe any entrepreneur grab a hold of some of the benefits of that?
Sure. And extraction, in essence, it's as I defined the entrepreneurial journey, as we're growing and we're getting a little bit of confidence about our growth. I see there's a challenge in that growth, that in itself it creates a lot of complexity, and the capabilities that you've had previously to get you to growth are no longer there, and with complexity you hit a ceiling of stagnation at times. Things slow down, there's stagnation, and then frustration builds up. And eventually, if you don't break through from that, it becomes a prison. And I think any entrepreneur who's not growing, who's not really fulfilling their vision, who is not engaged and is not seeing the results of that expansion, feels imprisoned by it. And you could be imprisoned by your own practice or your own business or your own creation. So extraction really starts with, how do you free yourself from that process? And really starts with re-engaging with a sense of vision, which is not just the why and the what, but something that really engages you emotionally as well as intellectually, where it's a future state that's bigger and better for everyone, that you and only you could actually create. And it's so visceral and it's so exciting, it pulls you. And that's essentially step one. It's being really re-engaged with something in the future and going through the phases and making that commitment, right? And that commitment to get out of that stagnation requires more energy, more effort, more investment, and going through seeing and identifying all the obstacles on your path and not fearing away and having the courage to see those obstacles as the raw material for transformation and growth. An obstacle is usually telling you something that you must overcome, a capability that needs to be built up, a growth that needs to happen within you, an investment that needs to be made. So seeing the obstacles as a raw material and really creating a plan, how are you going to overcome those obstacles, and engaging and stepping forward daily, that's where the growth starts to happen. That's where you come out of that cage and the life cycle starts activating and the confidence that's coming back. And if you're engaged in that process, you can almost avoid that stagnation in the future. You could predict when it's coming out, when you could predict what the capabilities are going to run short of our growth or our goals, and start doing something about it. Start really re-engaging that entire journey all over again. And that, I say, working on the business, giving yourself time and permission to step away, step back, step out of it, and really clearly see, diagnose, treatment plan, and execute your vision. That's essentially the extraction process.
So is the extraction, that use of the word extraction, I'm picturing, the dentists listening to us saying, I know what extraction means, but you kind of said a lifting up. So is there a basis in the use of that word to dentists in terms of on a business side and a growth side, on a lifting up, given these waves and curves that you're talking about, or do you see that differently? I mean, that's kind of where my mind went.
To segue, it's more of freeing up.
Okay.
Freeing up. You extract somebody out of the confinement, whether that's pain, whether that's an infection, whether that's stagnation. It's the process of freeing you up and liberating you.
Nice. Very nice. I like that. And it's good to use words like that you can connect into the audience of people that you're talking to. So yeah, I mean, you wouldn't extract a tooth unless there was a clear failing situation there that you've got to get liberated from, right? So, okay, I think I've got it. I'm a subscriber now.
Okay.
So then how does that kind of feed into what you've been building? So probably I'm imagining the book and that whole journey, as you've looked back on all that you had done and all that you'd learned to get to that point, is then kind of what led to the Optimized Practice Alliance in terms of, okay, we're going to use these concepts, these approaches to help other doctors to be able to get their extracted liberation, right?
Yeah.
So maybe talk to us a little bit about what you are uniquely doing with that, with the Practice Alliance, and how is that helping doctors with their businesses?
Of course. The main intention and the focus is to allow the doctors to live in a 90-day world concept. Give them the ability to really focus and give the time and the energy and the focus to think about where they would like to be within 90 days. Obviously, there's a 5-year vision, there's a 3-year vision, but those are kind of elusive if we're not really focused on what does the next quarter look like.
Right.
So it's call it a mini extraction process and focusing clearly on the next 90 days. Okay. If we end up with 3 to 5 achievements over the next 90 days, Will that feel liberating? And would it give you confidence? Would it feel you? Would it allow you to feel like you're on this journey of growth and satisfaction and fulfillment? So thinking through what that looks like, and then going through exactly like the steps. What are the obstacles getting in the way? Being very clear on developing a plan to overcome those obstacles. Is there a hire that we need to make? Is there a fire that we need to make? Is there a systems that we need to implement?
Mm-hmm.
What's the short-term obstacle that we need to overcome where you feel engaged? You could actually go in there with your teams and execute and be hyper focused, not on everything else, just 3 to 5 things. It's not about me and it's not about what I'm just allowing them to really craft what their clear vision looks like, what their clear plan looks like. And as I said, give them a lot of encouragement and the capabilities, share the capabilities that we've experienced. And we were very much in tune to what's happening in the industry, what situations, what tools, what resources that we could share with them to really overcome those little obstacles in that quarter and gain momentum. With our clients, we're also partnership in essence with them on a weekly basis. So we have a weekly call with them to make sure that we are executing their plan and a project management format. We're holding them accountable and we're giving them the resources and allowing them to develop their leadership team around them so they could feel absolutely supported. So there's a big accountability fact that's built into it, and we all need it as entrepreneurs. We don't have that. So I think essentially that really plays a big and important role. And now we're just launching the Optimize Academy, which is allowing the doctors to step away from their world for 2 to 3 days. It's more retreat focused opportunity to get there and be in an environment where they could step away from all, be very clear, be supported by other entrepreneurs who are going through the similar journey, give them the clarity, the confidence, and the capabilities. We'll have a lot of speakers that speak to different components of growing the practice. So at the end of the 2 or 3 days, they walk away with a concrete plan that they could go back to their teams and with their support, execute that vision.
That's great. That's great. So I was just looking at the future of dentistry belongs with dentists. Any comment that maybe you haven't shared yet that speaks to that being your tagline there?
I speak from my heart. I'm a clinician at heart. I know what it means to be a dentist. I know the challenges that we overcome. I know the passion that we share for serving our patients. And I have seen, and I continue to see a path that we could bring that to light and continue being the voice and empowering and connecting and really empowering the future of healthcare and dentistry specifically, and not having another entity dictate that for us. Not even have that conflict of interest, not for us and not for the patients and not for the clients, to even have that. And when I go to bed, I want to put my head on a pillow and feel like I've done the best that I can. And that's the essence of allowing dentists to be empowering force for their patients and not feel like, am I in conflict of interest in any sense or form? There are really good organizations, there are really great partnerships. And there are some really not so great partnerships, and we're all aware of. And if I could share my journey and empower and coach and be a voice, I want to make sure that doctors are completely liberated and empowered to lead the future of dentistry forward, because there is no other alternative. I don't see another path.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. So I'm certain that people can find your book, Extraction, kind of anywhere, right? I mean, that's
Amazon.
Yeah, and then if they're intrigued, then whether they read the book first or whether they just go, okay, yeah, I'll get the book, but I'm intrigued and I'd like to find out more about the Alliance or about the Academy. What's the best way for them to do that?
Online, optimizeps.com, Optimize Practice Alliance. I know we have some presence on LinkedIn as well. So we're available, fully excited and thrilled for the Academy, but overall, we're partnering and engaging with dentists to empower and support their dreams.
That's great. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you and spending time with you. And thank you for all that you've done and all that you're continuing to do. And I appreciate your time today, stopping in and sharing some of your insights and the pearls of wisdom you've learned over time.
I appreciate you, and thank you for bringing this platform to life for all of us. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate everybody watching today. I've been with Dr. Jack Bayramyan, and This is the Truth Behind Dentistry podcast. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Would love for you to share this with your friends so we can continue to grow our audience and bring more voices like Dr. Jack to more doctors, more hygienists, more others in the dental profession who want to continue to grow and get some liberation from some places where they may be stuck. So appreciate you watching. Thank you again, sir, and we look forward to seeing everybody on the next podcast. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.